Gerard Ryle has spent the last decade chasing the secrets of the super rich through tax havens around the world.
I keep coming back, it has to have public interest. We're not interested in someone's private affairs. But when we're looking at these records, we're not looking at private affairs, we're looking at things that should be made public. I think what it shows really is that there is a shadow economy, a shadow world out there that we are not aware of, and that this is a world that is enriching the people who are already rich.
He's coordinating a team of more than 600 journalists from international media partners, including Four Corners, who have spent months analysing more than 11 million documents. Asia City is just one of 14 service providers in the leak.
When you're looking at a secret world, you obviously have to get information from that secret world to really understand it. I think all of the leaks we've had in the past have only given us a small window into this world, but here we have 14 separate windows, and I think that's what's allowing this to be different from anything we've done before, because it's allowing this breadth of information. We're able to see how the world really works, how this parallel universe really works, in a way we've never been able to before.
Inside the Pandora papers are files on politicians, world leaders and former leaders and their secret wealth. Jordan's King Abdullah II, who bought luxury homes worth up to $100 million through secret offshore companies. Czech Prime Minister Andrej Babiš, who secretly used shell companies to buy a French chateau. And Kenya's President Uhuru Kenyatta, whose family secretly owned offshore assets worth more than $30 million.
We're talking about Myanmar generals, we're talking about people associated with Robert Mugabe over in Zimbabwe, and we're also looking at some other African figures, people that have been convicted or accused of money laundering or even worse crimes.
Some of Asia City's clients have been on the radar of authorities for years. In 2014, Asia City was instructed to freeze the assets of one of its high-risk clients. The order was obtained by the US Department of Justice. FBI agent Deborah LaPrevotte was chasing massive amounts of cash plundered by a former Nigerian president.
President Abacha died in 1998, and it's alleged that during his presidency he stole, embezzled, extorted just shy of $5 billion. So in 2012, the FBI and the Department of Justice got together and we started to investigate these funds. And what we found is there was a network of individuals that were not only helping President Abacha get his hands on these funds, mostly in cash, but then those funds had to be moved out of Nigeria.
In 2010, Asia City set up offshore trusts for a long-time associate of the president, Nigerian politician Abubakar Atiku Bagudu. It was later alleged in court documents that the pair had systematically embezzled public funds worth billions of dollars. Asia City kept Bagudu on as a client regardless.
Once in 2013, when it became very public that Mr. Bagudu was listed in the U.S. complaint, they could have said, you know what, there's enough here that causes us pause. So we're going to go ahead and close this account or request that you're no longer our customer. That didn't happen.
The FBI is still hunting more than $170 million frozen in trust accounts linked to Bagudu. Bagudu denies any wrongdoing and is contesting the freezing order.
It's extremely frustrating, and again, it comes back to these known havens, right? Whether it was Vanuatu, Singapore, Cayman, Switzerland at the time, you have a handful of people who loot the resources of a country, whether it's oil-rich Nigeria, oil-rich South Sudan, resource-rich Congo, and yet frequently a great percentage of the population is living below the poverty level. Imagine the good that could have been done with $5 billion in Nigeria in the late 90s. The roads, the infrastructure, schools, medicine, education, healthcare, all of that could have been, and all of that was taken away by a handful of people.
Russia is one of the world's most high-risk and high-reward financial destinations. It was a lucrative source of clients for Graham Briggs and Asia City. One of the people that Briggs cultivated was Herman Gref, a former Putin minister and head of a Russian state-owned bank that was later sanctioned by the US and Australia.
So the meeting occurred in a cafe in Moscow in February 2015 between Graham Briggs, the head of Asia City, and Herman Gref, who was a senior, politically exposed person in Russia. And they were meeting to discuss the structure that Asia City had set up for Herman Gref and the fact that he was going to use this structure in his post-government role or his post-government life. So the fact that the bank that Herman Gref is heading up is being sanctioned, I think, is significant.
Asia City helped set up an offshore network for Herman Gref and one of his old government colleagues, Putin's former Deputy Chief of Staff, Kirill Androsov. He spoke to Four Corners from Singapore, where he's now a fund manager.
Yes, I met Graham. At the very beginning, I met Graham, I think, at the months of incorporation of the fund, because for me it was important who will be the administrator of the fund and what is the attitude of this company.
The fact that they're Russian isn't necessarily a red flag, but the fact that they were Russian politically exposed persons and that some of them had allegations of corruption around them. Some of them were very closely linked to the Russian government, senior levels of the Russian government, and then seeing large volumes of money being moved in a circuitous pattern. That is a distinctive red flag.
The leaked documents reveal that Kirill Androsov received a mysterious $25 million bonus payment from a Russian businessman with rumoured links to organised crime. Asia City failed to keep track of millions of dollars of transactions in the complex Russian structures. Money laundering expert John Chevis has reviewed the documents.
It's worth noting that these weren't insignificant amounts of money. We were talking about $25 million at a time for some of these transactions. There were the circuitous transactions between these three people, whether they were conducting those transactions themselves or whether someone was conducting them on their behalf. They didn't appear to have any legitimate economic reason for some of these transactions that were occurring.
The transactions of Asia City's Russian clients were later investigated by the Singaporean regulator, which delivered a damning report.
Well, they found that the Asia City's anti-money laundering systems were very, very lacking. They were lacking in many ways. They suggested that the policies and processes weren't in place and that those policies and processes that were in place weren't being followed properly.
There's been a lot of criticism. Androsov categorically denied that any of his commercial dealings are in any way improper or unlawful. He told Four Corners he continues to work with Asia City.
As far as I know, they still have a license, and as long as they have license, they are liable to operate. So I don't know details of this case, and I don't know the substance. We keep business in some of the aspects, and we stop business in some of the other aspects, but I don't think that it's connected with this case that Monetary Authority of Singapore announced against of them.
Last year, the Monetary Authority of Singapore fined Asia City $1.1 million for failing to adequately monitor its high-risk clients and multiple, and in some cases systemic, lapses in anti-money laundering controls.
You have to ask yourself, why is somebody in this business? Why is somebody running a trust company out of Singapore where they've been found to be delinquent in their vigilance to fight anti-money laundering and terrorism financing? So, I could only say that I'd have to question. He knows what his company's doing. I would want to know, has anything changed since they were audited and fined? The fine was so minimal. I mean, it's less than a slap on the wrist.